Welcome to Transmedia, and what I'd like to talk to you about here are a few related concepts, but I want to start with magic circles. Now, magic circles are a super important concept for game designers. They're a sort of invisible barrier that identifies and designates the virtual world which the designer has created. So the idea is that when someone is playing, they exist within the magic circle, within the world created by the game designer. When players are not playing, they exist outside of the magic circle. And when playing within the magic circle, certain behaviours and thinking are perfectly okay. Shooting antagonists, stealing cars and shouting, "I'm going to kill you," at whatever screen the player is on in front of is perfectly normal, acceptable and even desirable because, after all, doesn't this imply that the player is engaged? Simple, right? Well, yes and no. There's been a lot of debate on this idea of magic circles and just how permeable they are. This kind of binary in-out idea of magic circles might, though, just seem a little bit too simplistic. When we're playing a game, i.e. when we're within the magic circle, the virtual world created by the designer, yes, we might exhibit certain behaviours that we wouldn't do in the real world. But are we not still us? What I mean by that is that when we enter the magic circle of a game, don't we not still bring with us our personalities, our perceptions, ethics and our judgments and so on, all constructed externally to the magic circle, i.e. in the real world, outside of gameplay? We have the same basic drives. We feel hungry and thirsty and tired, etc. And we're also aware that we really should be doing our homework instead of trying to get to level 5 of The Walking Dead Season 1. Thus, is it perhaps not more realistic then to consider the boundaries of magic circles as being more permeable than a binary in-outer approach? This is the starting point for considering blurred lines. What I mean by that is that maybe designers of experiences, and at this point I want to open the context up a bit wider than just games, will consider creating experiences for participants that blur the boundaries between reality and fiction. Maybe by devising experiences where participants become unsure as to what is fiction and what is real, could really enhance the extent to which they are engaged. And in this scenario, the so-called magic circle becomes so fragmented that it almost becomes a redundant concept. At this point, I want to draw on filmmaking and storytelling, and in particular the work by a guy called Lance Whaler. Now, Lance makes films, but more accurately and interestingly, he calls himself an experienced designer, as you can see in the screenshot there of his website. His work revolves around an approach called transmedia, where multiple platforms, media platforms and collaborations are used to create immersive experiences for participants, where the story is experienced sometimes in quite a delinear way. He has a brilliantly creative approach, and immersion is one of the key words to recognise here. In creating gamified systems, do we not want our participants to be immersed in the experience, where they're enthralled, surprised, captivated, active and engaged? So what can we learn from storytelling that blurs the lines between fiction and reality, where participants become active contributors to how stories and experiences unfold? What I'd like you to do now is to explore a project of Lance's as an example of how the lines between reality and fiction are blurred. Pandemic 1.0 was a created experience involving film, a kind of treasure hunt game, and, well, I'm not going to say any more. But it was launched at Sundance, which, if you don't know, is a really cool film festival in Utah for independent filmmakers. So, explore the links. Start with a link to the project's website. Be sure to watch the film of Pandemic 1.0 itself, the slides that describe the project, both of which are on Lance's website, plus the interview with Lance where he describes Pandemic 1.0. feel free to explore further. Lance has other projects that you can look at on his website, some of which are really quite dark, although, like his adventures, is super cute. I've also put a link to The Truth About Marika. Now, this again is a transmedia project. There's absolutely no need for you, though, to take a look at it. It's just there in case you get super interested in transmedia beyond this course, and maybe you might want to read it more rather than look at Pandemic 1.0 if you prefer to get your knowledge from reading rather than listening. So have fun, play a little, and while you're doing so, though, try to focus on how fiction and reality are confused in the designed experience, with the lines between both being blurred. Okay, so I'll see you later.